What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hammerdown Motorsports. Today behind me we have our 2007 Ford Ranger, our cheap truck project, and we are ironing out some of the issues that we do still have with this truck. One being a check engine light on the dash, and I'm not too surprised by this. We did fix our ignition problems, our new spark plugs, new wires, new coil, fixed all that up, and we are good to go. It runs really, really well, no more misfires, any of that kind of thing, but we still have a check engine light for a coolant temperature too low. So our thermostat is sticking open on this truck. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna drain our coolant, which probably needs replaced anyway, so we have some new stuff to go in there, and we're going to replace that thermostat and hopefully get rid of our engine lights once and for all. So a little peek under the Ranger, we can see we do have this big plastic piece under our radiator. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove our side bolts, and hopefully we can find the drain for that and get the coolant drained out of this truck. Wiggle, wiggle. And this guy is our way. So now we can see right here is our drain. I'm just gonna loosen this off and then our coolant will drain out of there. We have a nice clean pan in case we need to use some of our old stuff for top up, but I have 2 new jugs of the good stuff, so hopefully that'll be enough. Looks like 19 mil is our winner for this plastic plug. You wanna be careful with it, obviously. It's just a little plastic dealie that's going into this drain, because it's not really a plug, more of a screw that is going to keep our coolant in the radiator. So once it's loose enough, we'll back it out, make sure our coolant is going into our pan, and we'll let it do its thing. Also up top, I did take the cap off of the reservoir just to give us a little bit of breathing room there and get this thing to drain out properly. All right, so now that our coolant has drained, we're just gonna close our drain valve there, and just keep in mind it's plastic. You don't have to go crazy on it. Just want it nicely closed so it's not gonna leak, and we can go up top and get after our thermostat. Just like that. So now at this point, we could put our plastic piece back up because we're not gonna be obviously opening that valve again, but just from experience, I'm gonna leave it off for now. We're on the lift, so we'll be able to put it back up. And we're gonna get everything put in and leak checked before we do that, just to make sure. So with these clamps, very simple. You're just gonna take your pliers onto the open ends, push them together, pull it back, and then get it so it's off of our sealing surface for our hose. And I usually just give it a gentle little wiggle, and if everything goes well, it just kind of breaks free. If not, then we're just gonna get our coolant hose pick and get inside there and just break that little bit of a seal free from the plastic without damaging the hose very carefully. And we're just gonna get that all broken free and get those hoses off. So the top one was pretty easy, was able to get it with our Nipex, and then the bottom one I ended up using a little channel lock. Having the cable operated one probably would have worked too. I just have to go find where I put that because it's somewhere in my cleanup efforts. But we do have our pick from Icon in here. I bought their hose removal pick set, which is pretty handy. You can see this guy will go into the hose and then you can kind of move it around in there, and that's gonna break that seal. Because once they've been on here for a while, even though they're plastic, sometimes they get on there pretty good. This one's still a little bit, but it's coming. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And there we go. We got coolant on the floor, but that's all right. There won't be much in there anyways, but we do have both our hoses off. This one with a little bit of that pick action on there came off pretty easily. So now that our hoses are removed, it looks like we may have 3 bolts holding that guy on, but no big deal. They're kind of all in the open area there, so we should be able to get at them pretty easily. So we'll get those removed and get this old thermostat out of the truck. And if you're looking for a Motorcraft part number, I try to use as many Motorcraft parts as I possibly can using the OE stuff. Usually ends up being a good decision in the end, or if you can get one that's a better quality, because then you don't have to do things over and over again. We have an RT193 1X. Is our top number. There's some other numbers there you can screenshot or pause this video to check those out, but this is from Rock Auto, very simple, and came right to my door. And for our removal today, we are using our Alsa Tools extension and 1/4-inch ratchet with the pivoting head. To make our life easy, we can move this all different ways to get around all the stuff that may be in our way. And it's worked out really well. I got them all broke free. We're just gonna run these out and then we can get our thermostat out of the truck. So now with our bolts removed, we're just going to grab a hold, make a little bit of a mess on the floor, and pull this guy out. So yeah, if you don't want to mess on your floor, put your pan underneath this area, but it was only a little bit. We'll be fine. All right, so now that we have our surface nicely clean down there, just took a razor blade and got some of the oxidation off. And then we can see our seal here. You just want to inspect that, make sure there's no nicks or anything that's going to cause a leak. So we're just going to get this into place, put our hardware back on. We're going to torque it to spec. I have to look that up, see what specification. It is an 8mm head on it to get these out, so just to keep that in reference. So we'll put this back into place, get our hardware in, get our hoses back on, and we're ready to fill this thing up with coolant. So for our coolant, we do have this Xerix from Valvoline. I got this at AutoZone. It is a concentrated bottle, so you don't want to just pour straight this in and no water to mix. So we are going to be adding water to this. So you can do 50-50. You're good for -34 Fahrenheit and a boil over of 265 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think I'm going to go a little bit on the stronger side and I'm just going to go probably 40% for the water instead of 50, just so we have that little bit of added protection and lubrication quality and all that. But you can go as far as 70%, which is going to give you -84, which, yeah, we're never going to get that cold here. But I just wanted to have that little bit of added protection because, well, I come from Canada, so you don't want things to freeze. That's not a good day. So now we have our reservoir topped off here and we've got more coolant to go in. We're going to fire this thing up. I do have my exhaust hose going out the door. And we'll let this thing circulate and warm up, get that thermostat to open for us, and we'll be able to get all the coolant into the system. Want to be making sure that we don't have any leaks down there either. As we let this thing warm up. So now I'm just in the cab here. I have it a little over 2,000 RPM. We're just watching our temperature gauge go up. And what you want to see is it go up and then drop off. As that thermostat opens, you'll see that temperature change. Before it was barely above C. So our cold mark with our old thermostat, which was no bueno, and the computer did not like that, and that's why we have the lovely glow of the engine light. So once this all works as it should, we should be able to clear that code and it shouldn't come back. You see it is climbing very nicely, just like we want it to. Which means our thermostat is closed. It's allowing the engine to warm up until it reaches a certain temperature, and then it opens up and allows the rest of the system to be open, and we can maintain proper engine coolant temperature. So even at this point, we never had it go to that level. It was always in the bottom quarter of our cold mark. Also, you will see a drop in your coolant level once the thermostat does open up. So we allow all that coolant to go through the entire system. Then we can top it off to our proper level on the bottle. And while we're getting this thing to warm up, we're going to check our code here. This is the one that we did have, which is our thermostat temp below regulating temperature. So we are going to erase this code. This is our previous to our new thermostat code. And we have nothing as of yet. And we shouldn't have anything come back. So I just topped up our coolant. You can see we're at the max level on our bottle. I got the cap back on. And if you do feel the hose down here, we have heat on our lower rad hose now. So our thermostat did open. I didn't notice a whole lot on the gauge. Sometimes you'll notice it drop just slightly, but maybe I didn't see it when it did it or whatever, but maybe it was just a small incremental change. But either way, we are seeing what we wanted to see, and I was able to top this off you guys are wondering about our light bar here, this is from Icon, and it just has little pads here where you can stick your lights to, so you can pretty much put them wherever you want them underneath. They slide back and forth, which is pretty handy. Just kind of like to share a little bit of some of the tooling that I'm using during these jobs that come in handy for me. So I don't see any leaks. Look pretty good. We're gonna take it for a little test drive here, make sure all is good, and that should be pretty much the end for this job. Now what we're gonna do is just put our cover back on the bottom of our radiator, give it one more check over for leaks, but this is just the residual from our installation. And then we're gonna take it for a drive and do one final check on our coolant level, and that'll be it for this one. All right, so I took it for a good run down the highway. You can see we're a little below minimum, so I'm going to carefully just kind of give it a little rock back and forth, relieve some of that pressure. Just because you've done that doesn't mean it's all gone, so just very carefully open this guy up. We'll top it back off, and this thing's all done.